Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this podcast, I am talking to Punita Maheshwari about gender in journalism. Hi, Punita. Thanks for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure to have you here in the podcast. Could you please go ahead and tell a bit about yourself, your background, where do you live, etc.?
Sure. I started my career as a journalist. I mostly covered gender and human interest stories, including education. That gave me a lot of insight because my graduation was in political science. It gave me a lot of insight on dynamics, which included political dynamics, power dynamics, and that gave me a lot of perspective. And I could write about gender issues with a lot more sensitivity. At least I tried to. But having said that, I had my own learnings and graphs, and that is why I think narrative based stories and gender is really important. I got a chance to transit into gender advocacy and gender campaigning, where the role was basically to mobilize citizens, use the agency of democracy to bring in changes that would empower any issue that is important or relevant. Then it evolved into workshops for harassment redressal for students in colleges. I briefly then moved to political consultancy, where I could get a hang of where I got a lot of opportunities to learn that how policies are affected in government, and how politicians would work towards a cause, and how much relevance does a constituency population play in evolving a policy that is important, which even entrusted my opinion into, yes, we should always use our agency as citizens. Even media had a very important role to how media is so important to bring out the narratives, and why the correct narratives basically churn down into better policies for the citizens. So it's all interlinked, and I think so I can it is very safe to say that all of my career was very interlinked to each other, even if the domains were very different. But the part that was very much common was communication in it, and stakeholder management, and the importance of it also. And right now I am in the social sector, in the development sector, and I am pursuing communications full time.
Okay, what exactly do you work on in the social sector? What kind of social sector work are you working on?
So this organization is called the Nudge. I am in one of their programs. The organization overall works on poverty alleviation. One of the programs, I am basically in the communication for one of the programs for it.
Okay, wonderful. Now, you have done a lot of work on gender. So let's talk a bit about the gender representation in journalism and further talk about the related topics from there on. So, can you tell us about gender representation in journalism?
Definitely. So I will just speak from my personal experience. There's definitely more place and more visibility, and at least the places and the chances that I have gotten, I have definitely found that there is a lot of relevance for women to put in their voices. And because journalism by nature is not about putting your own opinions, it is about, mobilizing the right kind of opinion, getting the right kind of sources. So if you're good at your work, and if you have the ability to build that curiosity and connect with people, what I have seen is that there is definitely a lot of scope where there's not much discrimination, and that definitely gives you even more responsibility to bring out the stories that are needed. What I would say is that while everyone, even in a room of journalists who are fully well intentioned to bring out a story, there is a lot more capacity to bring in a lot of sensitivity in the way we write the stories. Because I can actually talk about my own example. This was actually one of the first years of me as a reporter. I had a story to cover, which was a very sensitive story. It was about a woman and a transgender were who had a hard time because of harassment at their schools, wherever they were studying, schools or colleges. It was basically their journey to come back to education, which, like, you would see is a very, very sensitive story to deal with. And this was one of the stories that was pursued for 1 week. And so there was a lot of time. And I remember very, very clearly that everyone was very, very vigil about the story. But at the end of the story, we still missed quite a few what word to use. A woman was harassed by a man. This is a passive voice. So basically, the blame of the statement is going on the woman. But when you say that a man harassed a woman, so the blame is actually going on the person who's doing it. So these are like very, very small things, but they have like a very big impact on people. And I think after I learned a little more about gender sensitivity, I got a chance to read more books about it. After 5 years, when I read the same story, I had so much perspective about, and there was just so many things that I wanted to change in that story. The kind of words that I've used in terms of, for example, there's a big difference between using the word harassed, and there's a big difference between using the word sexually harassed. So, but in a lot of places, it is, used as a replacement. But these are the small nuances that, as a journalist, once you get into it, you should know about these things. Uh, but you can't blame the journalists also. There's no dedicated school or a dedicated class right now, but there's definitely needed. So these are the kind of things that I really learned and appreciated. And yeah, it took me 5 years to, go back to my own story and reflect that, oh my God, this could have been written even more sensitively. So I think maybe that is why women representation in media is even more important, just because obviously it does impact a gender voice, a woman's voice in the system does impact the system. And having that kind of voice and experience in the industry, really, if I could just go back to the same story 5 years later, that just shows that that is that is why you really need people from the same gender to report on stories, so that the sensitivity at least is built over time. I'm not saying that it will not happen if a man has reported that story. I'm just saying that this is really, really important for anyone to come in and reflect upon their work, and gender definitely plays a very important role in that.
Now, you talked about your experiences and the education you have had for 5 years. And also, you mentioned that we all need a school to teach journalists when they are getting into the job to be more sensitive and be more nuanced in the reporting. Do you have any plans to start a school like that or some kind of education initiative to educate the upcoming journalists on this?
Thank you for asking that question. I definitely would love to. I have been working on one of the workshops that I'm trying to design, where I can find examples from my own reporting, from my fellow colleagues' reporting, or any reporting that I've seen. And I have also gotten a chance to take that workshop to my college where I studied journalism. So it was a very, very good session where I think after 5 years, I could go back to my own college and talk about the students who were not journalists yet, who were trainee journalists, who were getting trained to be journalists, and uh, give. And I don't shy away from giving this example of my own mistake, because I would have wanted someone to tell me this when I was studying itself, so that I wouldn't make that mistake in the story. So I use this example, and I could take this. So this workshop basically spoke about how, even if the language, even the passive language and the active language can make a lot of difference. So like also the tools, how you can be gender sensitive. It's not just about you can tell someone that be gender sensitive. There is a lot of nuanced language that you can share. There's a lot of examples, a lot of authors who are talking about it. So yeah, I definitely have plans to take this workshop on a bigger level, and I definitely would want to take it, to the newsrooms that are existing in this country, just having a workshop with their journalists. There would be a lot to learn from them also because they would be, in their experience as well. So yeah, the idea to take this workshop is to first the colleges and then to the newsrooms.
Okay, great. Another thing that you could consider is using artificial intelligence, which has been a new technology. Those
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence models can be trained to become whatever you want them to be. So, for example, you could input a passage um, with a headline to the model and ask it to make it gender sensitive and uh, give an output which you can again verify and train the model so that it's kind of a feedback loop, so that you
I
improve
would
the model as you go on.
I would love it, of course. That's a very, very good suggestion. And I think that would really make the life of a journalist very easy and more conscious. Um, However, there is one part, because this is the writing part. There's another part of basically when journalists are actually talking to the sources. So, I think they can utilize AI then also, like, because it's also about building a connection with your source. Like when you're talking to someone, uh, making them feel comfortable, making them assured that, their information is in safe hands, is something that I think journalists will have to. As a journalist, at least I never had any shortcuts for. Like I really had to go. Like you really have to make that connection with the person. So uh, while I'm talking about the questioning part of it, we have spoken about the writing part of it, but the questioning part of it, um, like you would have also seen it. Like when we are interviewing a celebrity who's a female, the kind of questions oriented. And when you're talking to a male celebrity, it's about what's your next project, what is going on, and a lot of celebrities have called it out. So this is also a very visible example of how even the questioning of how we speak to the women, in women or any other gender we speak to, really needs to be nuanced, so, and sensitive and empowering. So that's definitely something maybe AI can really help there as well, like, framing the questions. But the intention is what will only come when there is awareness, and mediums like, uh, people talking about it, genuinely talking from their experiences bring out. Yeah.
So, as you rightly said, the questioning depends upon the inherent bias of the questioner, and it helps a lot if the person who is questioning doesn't you know uh, mind the gender and ask generic questions, and that comes by again education and sensitivity. um, I am really not sure if you could use AI to do the questioning, because as you said, it needs personal touch, personal connections, and so that has to be
Yeah.
done by humans. But as you said, humans are biased, and so humans need to be very careful about the questioning part. Thanks for sharing that. Let's move on and talk about the challenges the women journalists are facing today, and the experiences of gender learnings in reporting on the newsrooms, and how do you create safer and more inclusive newsrooms for women, and any advice that you would like to give the young women entering the journalism.
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's just so much of responsibility on both the genders when anyone is entering a newsroom, and especially as a woman or any of the other genders apart from a male gender. It's like, but like I've mentioned, at least in my experience, because people are more aware, there is an when they see someone that a person is capable to get the stories that are really needed on ground. It is definitely a lot more, an assuring space. Um, I can tell you about one of the digital safety workshops that I got a chance to host for women journalists um, in the country. So it was through a fellowship, and basically my job was to get trained on digital safety, um, and then train a group of people on digital safety. So I chose women journalists, and you would be very surprised to hear that there were like so many women journalists uh, who have had an experience of 10 years, 20 years. They're working for regional newspapers, big organizations, and the digital safety hacks, like very small digital safety hacks, like having a different email ID for your work, which is very common. Having, double coded passwords on WhatsApp, because it's all about the phone right now. So if your phone is lost, how do you trace it as quickly as possible? Because that is where your information is uh, a lot. So those were the kind of things. And the response that I got from the group was a lot more about, oh my God, we should have known this. Oh my God. So there was a lot of, you know, it gave a sense that while there is a lot of risk in reporting, and there's a lot it takes a lot of guts to get out there and actually report and talk to people. And sometimes the where you have to go is not the safest place on the planet. uh, and no one has invested like these, like the big organizations can really do better with uh, investing in teaching these hacks to their journalists, and especially women, because definitely there's a lot more safety measures that we need with that gender right now. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of scope, but of even more safety for women. And only, I think, awareness and programs like these and talking about it. The biggest, I think, surprise to me was that, like, the journalists did not know that, oh my God, this is what we could have done for so many years. That was the biggest surprise, because you are going out there and taking a risk, and the idea of keeping yourself safe was not a natural instinct. So there's definitely a gap, but yeah, conversations are always there to fill in. And I think media as an industry is very open to change and evolution at a faster rate than a lot of other industries. So yeah, I think good things can happen.
So, what advice would you like to give to women journalists entering the field?
Um, I think read a lot. Read a lot about female journalists who have covered wars. Um, Write a lot, and keep talking to your like take a lot of advice, do have a lot of intellectual talks within groups, like form groups where you can share ideas. I think with maybe after even after 2020, uh, isolation has been a bit of a part of our lives. But I think bringing back that culture of, learning from each other, um, when there is a block, like, if there is something that you are not able to move forward to, feel free. That really helped me, like, talking to uh, women who were senior to me, like, and it pleasantly surprised me that they had also faced that kind of issue when they were my age. So I think that gives you a lot of confidence to sit again and go ahead with your work. So I think having conversations, and reading a lot about wherever you want to be can give you the motivation, because there will be a lot of blogs, there will be a lot of challenging times which may not be there in other professions. So when you have inspiration, it's really easier to move ahead. So bringing back that solidarity and bringing back that um vulnerability is always a good idea.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We talked a lot about your work, and let's shift gears and talk about your hobbies and interests. What do you do apart from work?
Um, for the good one last 1 or 2 years, I have really gotten into uh, fitness. And I think that I always just think that why haven't I started it even sooner? Because it makes your mind even more sharp, and it really impacts the quality of your work as well. So I and um, you know fitness in women is also, I think it's evolving at a very, very fast rate right now. Everyone is talking about muscle strength. Like, I think earlier the notion was that, okay, you have to look a certain way, and basically gym was an equivalent to weight loss. But that's not the case right now, and I really love it. And how gym is about uh, keeping your mind fresh and just like doing things that you like, not necessarily just weight loss or weight gain. It's about, building the strength, because at the end of the day, everyone needs strength. So I think just having that feeling of, okay, I feel stronger. I don't know if I feel thinner, but I do feel stronger. So I think that is something that has really been a part of my journey for the last couple of years. And healthy eating, that really, and healthy eating, not in terms of, again, not in terms of just the body weight or just the body type. Healthy eating in terms of what makes your brain stronger, what makes you sleep better, what makes your metabolism better, is my has been my focus, then just focusing on one part and losing the strength. So and there has been a lot of curiosity for me in that, in terms of finding the right food according to uh, uh, you know uh, how I want to function that day. Like, if there is a hectic day, then I would want uh, lighter food, and if there is a leisure day, what kind of food that I can have, which is healthy plus not not impacting the next day's work. So I yeah, so that is what I mean. Apart from just the fitness part, I really like the uh, intellectual dieting scenario that is going on right now, that it is about what optimizes your body the best, is what I've been focusing on. And yeah, I think I've been making a lot of salads, and I really enjoy uh, eating them as well.
Okay, wonderful. just out of curiosity, what kind of societal issues that you care about, apart from, of course, gender and all the work that you are doing? Are there any other societal issues that you are bothered about and want to work on them?
Um, Inequality, which is a very, very big concept, but inequality in terms of, especially when it comes through power, um, inequality, because it's a democracy. For me, in my head, it's a democracy. Everyone has equal rights. So inequality based on caste, based on the position that you have in the society, religion, um, anything is something that I would like to contribute as much as I can.
Okay, so when you talk about democracy, are you not bothered by democracy being influenced by majority? Because
Mhm.
if the majority is wrong, what happens to that lone voice which is correct?
So democracy is not as simple concept as okay, 100 people are saying this and one person is saying this, uh, and so we should just listen to the 100 people. It's actually the opposite. If you actually go by the definition, it's about every voice matters. So the bandwidth is, I know the voting system works like whoever has voted the most, but that is why we have opposition, right? That is, opposition is as much as a part of democracy as the government in power is. So by principle it shouldn't bother us, because even if 100 people are saying one thing and that one person is saying something else, at least what democracy would say is, an ideal democracy would do, is to have the space for that one voice also.
Okay, that's quite idealistic, but yeah. um, okay, great. Anything else do you want to talk about before we move on to questions for me?
Um, no, I think we can start. I think enough about me. We can definitely, uh, yeah, change, rotate the table.
Okay. So, what do you want to ask me? Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask that what brought you to the idea of podcast?
Okay, so podcast is a medium which enables me to talk to people and get to know the different perspectives. I like talking to people, so this is a good medium for me to talk to people and get to know the different perspectives. So that's basically what brought me to the podcasting.
Okay, and I noticed that you have been talking about, you have been profiling people from a particular sector. And what I really like the most is that you just don't talk about their profession. You also talk about what is their underlying routine, what makes them uh, what they are doing right now. So I was just curious about, was this deliberate or like it came up during your conversations?
So it came through the conversations, at least after a couple of conversations, it looked like it would be great to have these kind of um, topics and have the conversations along these lines. So it actually happened quite early after a couple of initial podcast episodes. So it didn't take much time to decide on it. But the good thing is that people really like this format, and it's different from the other podcasts out there, and it's giving the people a chance to express themselves without limitations to their professions on the work or they are doing. So they are it gives the space for them to talk about multiple things that as part of their life experiences. So yeah, that's how it evolved.
Great, very good to know. And I totally agree that it really sets this podcast apart.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thanks for your time in taking part in the podcast. I wish you all the best in your work and whatever you aspire to do in your life. Thank you once again and all the best. Take care. Bye
Right.
bye.
Yeah, you too.
That was a great podcast with Punita Maheshwari. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.